In the dry, fire-adapted woodlands of Western Australia, a genus of tough, spiky-flowered shrubs has quietly held on for millions of years, evolving in near-total isolation from the rest of the world's plant life. Some species in this genus, including Dryandra polycephala, are considered rare and are found in only a handful of remaining wild populations, hemmed in by land clearing and a shifting climate. Botanists have studied this plant family mostly for its unusual ancient chemistry shaped by one of the harshest, most fire-prone environments on Earth. But what if that chemistry, built to help a plant survive repeated cellular damage from fire and drought, had something to say about a very different kind of damage, the kind that happens silently inside the human ear? This is the story of Dryandra polycephala, and a thought experiment about hearing loss, cellular regeneration, and one of the most difficult unsolved problems in modern medicine. Dryandra, now taxonomically classified within the broader Banksia genus by most botanists, belongs to the Proteaceae family, an ancient plant lineage found primarily across Australia and southern Africa, dating back tens of millions of years to when those continents were still connected. Plants in this family evolved in nutrient-poor, fire-prone soil, and many species developed remarkable regenerative strategies as a result. The ability to resprout from underground tubers after a fire has burned away all visible growth above ground, and to rebuild damaged tissue rapidly once conditions allow. Dryandra polycephala specifically grows in a narrow band of southwestern Australian woodland, a region recognized by ecologists as one of the most biodiverse and most threatened temperate ecosystems on the planet. Multiple Dryandra and closely related Banksia species are formally listed as threatened or vulnerable due to land clearing, changed fire regimes, and a root rot pathogen that has devastated Proteaceae populations across the region. This part of the story is well documented, a real, ancient, regeneration-adapted plant family under real and measurable conservation pressure. Fire ecology researchers have long been fascinated by exactly this kind of plant because surviving repeated, unpredictable fire damage requires more than just tough bark or deep roots. It requires cellular machinery capable of rapidly rebuilding entire structures from a small surviving base over and over across a plant's lifespan. Some Proteaceae species can resprout within weeks of a fire that destroyed nearly all of their visible tissue, a pace of regrowth that plant physiologists still don't fully understand at the molecular level, even after decades of study. Here's what's genuinely true, separate from anything imagined in this video. Plants that specialize in rapid tissue recovery after fire or drought damage are a legitimate subject of interest for regenerative medicine researchers, because the biochemical pathways that help a plant regrow damaged cells sometimes involve compounds, antioxidants, growth factor-like molecules, and cellular stress response triggers that overlap conceptually with pathways researchers study in animal tissue regeneration. Proteaceae species in particular have drawn research interest for their unusually high concentrations of certain phenolic compounds tied to cellular stress resistance. Separately, and just as importantly, cochlear hair cell regeneration is a real, active, well-funded area of hearing research today. Unlike many animals, birds and fish, for example, which can naturally regenerate damaged inner ear hair cells, humans and other mammals largely cannot, which is why most hearing loss caused by hair cell damage is currently permanent. Legitimate research programs at major hearing research institutes are actively studying gene therapy, stem cell approaches, and molecular signaling pathways that might one day trigger hair cell regrowth in humans, the way it happens naturally in birds. This context matters because it means the premise of tonight's story sits at the intersection of two real, separately documented fields, plant regeneration chemistry and cochlear hair cell research, that don't currently overlap in any confirmed study. What this video adds from here is speculative, connecting those two real fields into a story that hasn't actually happened. It's worth noting how genuinely difficult mammalian hair cell regeneration has proven to be as a research problem. Scientists have understood the basic biological puzzle for decades. Birds can do something mammals apparently cannot, and yet translating that difference into a working human therapy has remained elusive despite sustained research investment. That difficulty is exactly why any claimed breakthrough in this space, plant-derived or otherwise, deserves a high degree of scrutiny before anyone treats it as settled. This is explicitly a thought experiment. Nothing in this chapter describes an actual study, compound, or discovery that currently exists. Imagine, for the sake of the story, that researchers studying Dryandra polycephala's post-fire regrowth chemistry isolated a distinctive phenolic compound involved in triggering rapid cell division in the plant's damaged tuber tissue. Imagine that, out of general scientific curiosity, a hearing research lab tested this compound against cultured mammalian cochlear cells in a laboratory dish and observed early, narrow signs of increased cellular activity in the supporting cells surrounding damaged hair cell structures, not regrowth of hair cells themselves, but early activity in the surrounding cellular environment that specialists consider a meaningful early signal in this kind of research. And imagine that finding generated real interest among hearing researchers, not because it suggested a cure for hearing loss, but because it pointed toward a mechanism worth years of further laboratory and animal study, alongside the gene therapy and stem cell approaches already being pursued through legitimate research programs. That is as far as the imagined story goes. In this thought experiment, exactly as in real regenerative medicine research, an early cell culture signal would be many years and multiple research phases away from anything resembling a human treatment, and would not at any point along that path mean a real person with hearing loss should delay or avoid an existing effective treatment option. It's worth explaining plainly why even a topic that feels less immediately dangerous than some medical conditions still deserves careful framing. Hearing loss, left unaddressed, carries real and well-documented consequences beyond the hearing itself, including increased risk of social isolation, cognitive decline, and reduced quality of life, particularly when it goes untreated for extended periods while someone waits for a future solution that doesn't yet exist. Hearing aids and cochlear implants are highly effective, well-established, continuously improving technologies today, and audiologists generally recommend addressing hearing loss as early as possible rather than delaying treatment. That means even a genuine future breakthrough in cochlear hair cell regeneration, the kind real hearing research institutes are actively working toward through legitimate gene therapy and stem cell programs, would take years of animal studies and human clinical trials before reaching patients. A plant discovery, real or imagined, would be no exception to that timeline, and nothing in this video should be read as a reason to postpone evaluation or treatment with an audiologist or ENT specialist. If you or someone you know is experiencing hearing loss, please don't wait for a future breakthrough, plant-based or otherwise, before seeking help. This entire episode is built around two real, separately documented fields of research, wrapped around a speculative what-if story connecting them in a way that hasn't actually happened. Real progress in hair cell regeneration is being pursued seriously by real scientists, and when something real does emerge, it will reach patients through an audiologist or otologist and years of clinical trials, not through a video about an Australian wildflower. This isn't a disclaimer added out of caution alone. It's the most important sentence in this script. Today's effective, available treatments for hearing loss are hearing aids, cochlear implants, and audiological care, not a plant compound, and delaying real treatment while waiting for speculative future science carries its own real cost. Set the speculation aside, and there's still something genuinely worth sitting with. The idea of looking to plants that specialize in cellular regeneration for clues relevant to human tissue repair isn't far-fetched as a general research strategy. It's a real established approach across multiple fields of medicine, from wound healing to cancer research. What's speculative here isn't the strategy itself, but the specific, unconfirmed connection this story draws between one particular rare shrub and one particular kind of human hearing loss. Dryandra polycephala's real story, a fire-adapted ancient plant lineage now facing habitat loss and disease pressure in one of the most biodiverse regions on Earth, is worth telling on its own terms, independent of any speculative medical connection. Its regenerative chemistry, still only partially studied, may hold genuine scientific value. Researchers haven't yet identified in ways that have nothing to do with human hearing at all. Southwestern Australia, the region this plant calls home, is recognized internationally as a global biodiversity hotspot, home to thousands of plant species found nowhere else on Earth, many of them still only partially cataloged. The pressures facing Dryandra polycephala specifically, land clearing, altered fire cycles, and an introduced root rot pathogen, are the same pressures facing much of that surrounding ecosystem, which means whatever chemistry this plant and its relatives carry is disappearing on a timeline set by habitat loss, not by the much slower pace of scientific study. Dryandra polycephala may never turn out to hold anything close to what this story imagines about hearing loss, but its real ancient talent for regrowing itself after disaster is worth understanding on its own merit. And for anyone facing hearing loss today, the most important step isn't waiting on an unstudied shrub. It's making an appointment with someone who can actually help, using the real tools already available right now. Somewhere between a fire-scorched Australian woodland and a hearing research lab on the other side of the world, there may genuinely be something worth discovering, but the discovery, if it ever comes, will take the same patient, careful, years-long path every real medical breakthrough takes.